I'd like to call the Salem High School Building Committee meeting on, let's say, Wednesday, December 3rd to order. Looking at the meeting agenda, with apologies to those who may be non-members of the committee who are tuning in, we were not able to get the minutes out in an orderly fashion or in a timely fashion. So we will not be voting to approve the November 20th meeting minutes today. We will look forward to doing it at our next meeting. So we're going to move from the approval of minutes right to item number 3, which is the milestone schedule review and next steps with Margaret.
Well, I'm just gonna say again, like the main reason for the meeting tonight is to give you an update on the budget for the project. And that is because today we have a requirement of the process to give an update to the MSBA. So this is going to be a pretty quick meeting because it's really about that update, but you will recognize this diagram. You will recognize that we are actually getting close to the end of this design phase, which is the yellow bar. So on the 17th, we will be making the submission, and a week from tonight on the 11th, a week from tomorrow night on the 11th, we will be having our last meeting of the phase to present to you the materials for the submission and asking you to give us your authorization to submit it. So if we go to the next slide, Davida is running the slides for me. Thank you. The next slide hasn't changed it at all, other than the red arrow has moved from the last meeting to tonight meeting. And then again, we have one more meeting, and then we have what appears to be a blank canvas. Although at the end of this meeting, I do want to propose some dates for future meetings. So we will come back to that and hopefully drop in. As we discussed last month, I think it would be a good idea for this group to meet monthly in the run up to the local vote. So let's go to the next slide. So again, basically 2 weeks to the day from our submission to the MSBA, we are required to let them know we are on budget. I think this is a really great feature of the MSBA program because it really forces the whole team to produce a draft of the estimate by 2 weeks ahead of time. And then, you have an opportunity, as we are about to launch into, and we started this today, to launch into kind of really chewing through where there might be cost savings or other adjustments that might be made before we make the submission. So Davida, if you go to the next slide, I literally, for everybody's benefit, I just put the notice. This is a template they give us, and they say you need to plug in the 4 numbers. So the first number plugged in those designers' estimated construction cost. And, we're trying to use rounder numbers here so people understand that it is, these are estimates. It was actually a smidge below 370, but we rounded it to 370. The OPM's independent construction estimate, which was actually provided by the Shawmut-Rich Partnership, came in a little higher at 381. There's about 3% difference between these two numbers, and they haven't been through the process that we will be starting when we started today of reconciling these. And I also want to just comment that in the meeting today, the SRP group came forward as the designer's estimator did also, with a whole bunch of ideas to chew through about possible cost savings and other things. So we do not expect those numbers to go up. I was relatively happy with them because the big thing that we've done here is that we've into the construction cost, we have now included the full cost of the photovoltaic installation, which, if you think back to when we made the PDP and the PSR submissions, the values were outside of the construction cost. And the city asked us to put them within the construction cost because the city felt strongly that it was important that the city own rather than lease these installations. So that meant that the full cost of that had to be included. We've also essentially added a component to the project since the previous submission, which is we've agreed that the best way to solve for the temporary automotive education requirements for bathrooms for the fields, as well as some storage that is needed, district storage that is needed, is that we've added a small, what I would call an outbuilding, but the MSBA would call an outbuilding. So although we've added both of those things, the construction cost has gone up a little bit, but not a whole lot. And Davida in a few minutes is going to talk a little bit more about the process that the Shaman and Rich estimators in partnership with PM&C, which is the designer's estimate, have gone through to produce the drafts that we saw today. So this, again, the MSBA wants the designer's number, they want the independent construction number, they want my estimate of project cost, which includes all the soft costs that we talked about at the last meeting. And then they want us to reiterate the project budget, which for the purposes of the submission, I kept exactly as it was in the preferred schematic submission. That is the number, the 454, 458, 158 is what we said was our project budget in the previous submission. So all the rest of this is templated language. I didn't make it up, but it did go to them today, and we are now going to launch into the next phase. So before we go to what Davita's going to report on, any questions about any of that? I am not seeing any hands. Okay, so what's on the next slide?
All right, I'm just
Okay.
going to take a minute to talk through the schematic design estimate, give you guys an update on what we did and where we are. So Shawmut Rich Partners, the two companies, we received the documents from Perkins and Will on Wednesday, November 5th, and we immediately downloaded them, broke them up by discipline, and disseminated them to our trade partners. We've been working together for the last 3 weeks to put the estimate together and really spent the last 3 days reconciling everything amongst ourselves, making sure that we were on the same page with things, working out things where maybe we weren't meeting up, to put together the estimate you see today, the 381. We did have actual subcontractors involved with this process. We did walk a couple of them through the school. We do have proposals, so we are getting real actual pricing from subcontractors that could perform the work. And we have been and will continue to coordinate with PM&C, the design estimator, just to make sure that we are seeing things and moving in the same direction with the design. From there, just want to speak a little bit about some of the costs that are in there that are not directly work related, but contingencies, the GCs and GRs, fees, market conditions, things of that nature. So right now, based on the progress of the design documents, they are a really, really good schematic set, as you guys know. And because obviously we are not perfect, SRP, our estimating team, cannot catch every little thing, and we might have some mistakes or oversights. So we are carrying right now an 8% design and estimating contingency. We're carrying a 2% construction contingency. In this market, it's generally around what we see for a project of this size, so we feel comfortable with that. At this time, we've got 2.25% for general requirements. That could ebb and flow over the next few design iterations, but right now we feel pretty confident in that. We are carrying 10% escalation, which is about 4% per year. Real construction starts in 2028, so they'll take us through completion of that. The pre-construction costs, the GCs, and the fee, that is all flat fees that were in our original proposal, so nothing has changed on those items. And then current market conditions, like we talked about with much of this group a couple months ago, the market is pretty stable. We are seeing a little bit of a decline in some areas, so we're hoping to continue to capitalize on that for this project. But everything so far has been very stable. So where we go from here is this Friday. Both SRP and PM&C will submit the full and final estimate for team review. Next Tuesday, the 9th, we will all meet together in Perkins and Will's office to go through the estimate, reconcile it, everything that Margaret spoke to already, with the intent to have the final estimate printed and ready for SBC review on 12/11. MSBA submission is the 17th, as you guys know. And then after all of that is done, and after we receive a positive vote in the spring, we will do this all over again for DD 60% and 90% design iterations. And then, as Margaret already said, how does the estimate ultimately look? So we're about $1,100 per square foot, a little bit higher than we had hoped, but I don't think it's as crazy as perhaps it could have been in today's economy sometimes. We do have some value management to do. Margaret already spoke to the list that we've started to review. We have some really good ideas, and we're confident collaboratively we can work through that. And there's that confidence. We are confident saying that you guys are on budget. Just want to reiterate what Margaret started off with. It's going to be okay. You guys are going to get what you want. So with that, any questions for what I've presented today?
I see Rick's hand.
I do too. Hi, Rick.
Hi, thank you, Nate. Thank you, Davida. When you say $1,100 a square foot, that includes like all the site work is rolled into that number too. So it's a little like it's not really $1,100 a square foot for the building itself.
Correct. It's the project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And again, that PV.
Again, it's bumped up because we've got the PV and the outbuilding included.
Understood.
So it's a little bit warped relative to comparative project.
Yep, understood.
Paul, I know you put your hand up. You still have a question?
Yeah, Davida, would you mind, if you can you tell us what subs, what trades you got numbers from?
Absolutely. Site work, structural steel, abatement and demolition, geothermal. There's a few other I'm missing, I know. Metal panels, curtain wall and storefront. We did reach out to all trades to at least get at least 2 subcontractors to price them. So we probably have more than I'm quoting here now, but we did get as many of the big boys involved as we could, the kind of bigger packages, without risking any issues with trade contractors in the future. Of course, I like MEPs and those things that will be publicly bid we have to be careful with. But if there's any particular trades you're curious about, let me know and I'm happy to look into it more.
No, that's great. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Other questions? I don't see any hands. Okay. Was that all you had, Davida?
That is. We can always go back if anyone thinks
Okay.
of anything, of course, just let me know.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for this information.
Okay.
Go ahead, Michael.
So it is great. And the conversation today was very impressive, the number of smart people who are working on this. So I am going to throw away the rest of the Halloween candy. So
Send it to me.
Okay. So at the last meeting, we talked about putting dates on the calendar for 2026. So I will say, to do this proposal, which is a proposal for feedback, I first reached out to Dominic's fabulous assistant, who gave me the dates Dominic was available. And then we seemed like one date that would be important would be the February 26th date, which is the Thursday right after the MSBA votes. The MSBA will vote on the 25th. So that kind of pointed me in the direction of kind of second or third Thursdays, depending on Dominic's availability. So I'm not going to ask for everybody to sort of put their hands up or down now, but those are the dates. What I would like to ask is, if you know you have conflicts with any of those dates, can you let us know? And then we have some ability to adjust some of those dates.
Rick?
Is the mayor here? I can't see whoever, if
Yes,
everyone's
yeah.
here.
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah,
When is, Mayor, when do we need to go to city council to ask for the vote, to set the vote for May 6th? Is that in February?
I'm planning to file it in January.
January,
the-
okay.
Yeah,
Steve,
there's two
we
council
can go
orders.
back to the slide. Dominic can talk through it. Can you go back to the slide with the big boxes? Sorry to interrupt you, Dominic. Two more. There you go. So Davida, can you zoom in? So the bond order and the subsequent city council, whoops. Yeah, just there you go.
So the filing for the first meeting of January with the city council will be there's two orders related to the special election. One schedules the election and the other specifies the language on the ballot. The template for those are all provided by MSBA. And then there's the bond order, which is the funding vote. My expectation is the council will refer at least the bond order, if not the whole package of all three orders, to committee. They meet the second and fourth Thursday of each month. So if they have a committee meeting and report it out for the meeting of January 22nd, they could do the vote on the scheduling of the election. The bond order takes two separate votes from two separate city council meetings. So the first passage would be at that January 22nd meeting, and the second passage would be the first meeting of February 12th.
Thank you.
Other questions? I don't see anyone, Margaret.
We promised it would be short. We have a place in the calendar, in the agenda for public comment. And Rick, did you want to, I know you're in the car.
That's
Oh,
okay.
Jenna has a question. Hold on one second.
Jenna's got a question. Yep.
Sorry.
Just, Dominic, can you explain a little more what so I get the two bond orders, but the vote in May is for override, and what is required? How is that different? And does that require a certain amount of votes? I know like in town meetings, they have to have a certain percentage of the town meeting members, but I just don't know what for city council, what that particular vote means.
Dominic, before you answer that question, just to be clear, it's not an override, it's a debt exclusion. And you might want to explain that, Dominic.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and so a 2.5 override is a permanent override of the levy, so that you can fund the operational budget on an ongoing basis and never comes back down to the pre-vote levy ceiling. But the debt exclusion is a temporary exclusion of the 2.5 limitations only for the purposes of the debt taken on for the project. When the debt is paid off, that exemption of the 2.5 limitation goes away. And it's only for that project. There is no, Margaret, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there is no similar requirements as there are in some towns where they have to have a certain turnout of the vote in order for it to be passed. With the city special election for debt exclusion, it's just a majority of the voters who cast ballots, 50% plus one.
So it's it goes to the voters.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So the timing is that we're anticipating that election will happen on May 5th.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I see Neil and then Perla.
Just to clarify on the city council process, Mayor, is the January 8th meeting really where they will be deliberating and discussing, and then the other, or is it all three potentially?
They'll receive it. I'll file it so it would appear on the agenda for that meeting of January 8th. If they want to deliberate and vote on it that night, I think that's great.
Right.
But I think given the magnitude and saliency of this topic, they'll likely refer it. There won't be much deliberation on it that evening. They would refer it to a committee, probably the Committee on Administration and Finance, And that committee would have a meeting in those 2 weeks between the two city council meetings, hopefully report it out favorably. And then the full council would take it up for first passage on the bond order at that second meeting in January. But because it requires two passages on the bond order, there's a likelihood of it going to committee. I didn't want to delay too late into the year to get it filed, because if we push this vote into the summer, that has all kinds of implications for the project timetable. And as I think Rick and others have mentioned before, every month that we add on to this process increases the eventual cost of construction.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Perla?
Thank you. Mayor, do you have some sense of when we may have a ballpark figure of what that dollar amount is going to be in terms of exemption around for homeowners here? Just because there's people want to know. A lot of the folks that I'm speaking with are curious, and I just would like to know if we could have at least some way of informing them.
Yeah, I think that's the number one question that we've been getting on this roadshow that Nate, Rick, and Steve and I have been doing. We have a good sense of the project cost right now, and we know what people's assessed values are. So that's kind of the first variables we would need. We do want to have a calculator up on the building committee website where people can look up their tax information and see what the cost will be. I think the two things that we are still trying to finalize are, we don't know what the MSBA reimbursement is going to be. And that, ultimately is an important thing for people to understand that, if it's $450 million, it's not $450 million ultimately from the local taxpayers, that there is a reimbursement. And then the other variable is the term of the bond. If it's 20 years, 25 years, that's something that, the finance director and bond counsel are working through as far as how long it would be, but that also affects obviously what the financial implications are for people.
Thank you.
And I should know this, but can you remind me, Margaret, or maybe Dominic, when will we know what the reimbursement rate is, so that we can finalize that calculator that Perla's looking for?
Oh, as part of our responsibilities, the OPM's responsibilities, we prepare a version of that total project budget form with the real construction numbers plugged in. And as part of that, that form produces an estimate of that, but it's still an estimate. Then the MSBA, as part of their review, one of the main things that they do is they look at it and they come back and they say, we agree or we don't agree with what's in and what's out. So there's always a little bit of a wiggle room. And what I think is a little bit awkward about this one is we're going to send it in and then it's the holidays, right? So it's going to take a little longer. I have already asked them, if they can give me a date by which they will confirm the total project budget, and they deferred confirming. So I think my sincere hope is that we will hear by mid-January what the assessment they have made of the form. But I also know there are a very large number of projects on the February board agenda, and it's a little hard to tell how that's going to affect the staff workload. So I think for the purposes of what we have now, I think we can take the Accenture estimate and we can plug it into the calculator, and we can revise the calculator if that number changes very much. I think that's probably the best, because I know this is an urgent question for lots of folks.
I would agree with that, Margaret. So long as we're very clear that it's of course an estimate, and that if we have a relatively solid date for when we will have firm numbers, we would also want to list that with the calculator as well, so they'll know that on this date these are the hard and fast numbers, and the calculator will be adjusted accordingly. Paul?
I just want to, I want to understand one thing. Is the vote ultimately for the entire bond, for the entire project cost, or will the vote assume that or would be told what the reimbursable rate, let's say it's 50%, and the city's vote and your tax increase would be based on the city's portion of the total project cost?
So the language of the bond vote states it's the full amount. Because in fact, the city is bonding for the full amount and then the MSBA is reimbursing you throughout the project for their share. So it actually needs to get presented. I think Dominic's, I suspect, already had conversations with this. What's in the bond language is different. You have to present the bond language and then you have to actually present what the essentially the mortgage cost is for the project.
But then, so the vote is for the total project cost of 450 or whatever.
The bond vote, yes.
But when this number goes into the calculator for people who are actually going to look at what their assessed value is and what the tax implication will be, it won't be for the full.
That's right. We'll
bonded
only be
number.
using the estimated city share.
Got it. Thank you.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if I can just add to that, we've talked before that I would love to also be able to show people the cost of the code renovation option if it fails, because I think that's an important factor for people to consider and not be surprised that if they vote no and it ends up dramatically affecting our ability to fund capital and impacting their taxes down the road, that they understood that in advance.
Other
Thank you.
questions, comments? Any last minute comments before I go into public comment? Rick, you have anything?
I just wanted to say a couple sentences about radon. That was an issue that was raised at the last meeting by a member of the public. There were radon samples taken in the existing conditions evaluation in the existing building in 10 locations. The average of all of those was well below the EPA guideline limit. So at this time, there was no further action required in the existing building. There's no guarantee that where the new building will be sited and what the basement condition will be or the lower floor condition will be, that there would not be radon there. So we're going to be carrying an allowance in the schematic design budget for increased ventilation. That would be the mitigation for radon, if it does become evident in the siting of the new building. So we're going to post that on the frequently asked questions page on the project website, so that if folks who are concerned about that can put those fears to bed.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, as Tom Larco mentioned in an email when we were discussing this last week, the other option is a membrane. And given that this is a net zero building, I think we're going to really want to look at the difference between the membrane, which is possibly more expensive, but not using energy, and the ventilation version.
Point.
So
Thank you, Margaret. Great point. I missed that.
Any other last comments or questions before we move to public comment? And is Davida still on? I want to thank her one more time. Yeah, she's on. Again, Davida, thank you for the presentation.
You're most welcome.
Okay. So now I don't even know if there are non-members on this meeting.
There are.
Okay.
There is at least one.
Okay, so there is an opportunity for public comment. If you wish to make a comment, please, we just need to know your name. And we'll
They
give
just
you,
have to raise their hand and I can allow them to talk.
Okay, and we will give you 3 minutes to speak.
And I do not see anybody raising their hand.
All right. I guess that means I need a motion to adjourn. Someone? Anyone?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Great meeting. Great information.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
all.
Thank you.
Great news. Thank you all.
Thank you.